Welcome to the GreenPilled Network podcast. If you're just joining us, we are building a coordination, a network society of thousands of hackers, dreamers, and doers focused on using crypto to bring positive-sum digital systems to the world. This podcast features the people who are doing it, and we publish a season of episodes every couple months. This season is Lean Mean Capital Allocation Machines. What are the ways in which we can do different, weirder, more scalable, and more precise capital allocation now because we have on-chain primitives? How can we maximize not just financial returns, but achieve impact equals profit, ecosystem growth, public goods, or protopia? So my guest today is Griff Green. Griff Green is the founder of Giveth. Giveth is also involved in the Token Engineering Commons and a number of other projects in the space. Griff has been on the podcast. This will be his third time on the Greenpill podcast. And it's always a delight to talk to him because I think Giveth is a force in doing public goods funding and regen funding in the Ethereum ecosystem. His platform, Giveth, which is Giveth is a DAO, but Griff is the founder. Their platform, Giveth, is a crowdfunding application through which people can do quadratic funding. They can do donations to different projects in the ecosystem. And Griff and I are talking today about Quacc, which is a new mechanism that Griff and the Giveth Galaxy are releasing, which is basically an augmented bonding curve, allowing you to, when you donate to a project, you're kind of buying into that bonding curve. So I don't know if you've played with Friend Tech, but think of it as like Friend Tech, but for regen public goods. So basically, instead of getting into someone's DMs by buying onto a Friend Tech curve, you are giving to your favorite public goods projects, and that money goes into a bonding curve in really new and interesting ways. So I think that Griff is sort of at the intersection of a lot of interesting mechanism designs through Token Engineering Commons, and Giveth, which is the crowdfunding platform that he is the founder of, is where he puts that in practice. And it's always fun to catch up and talk about the latest and greatest in the Web3 mechanism design space. Griff and I have traded a lot of ideas over the years about how to supercharge the incentives to fund public goods. And so it's fun to hear about their most recent experiment, which again is called Quacc. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Griff Green. What's up?
Good to see you, Kevin.
Yeah, likewise. So what have you been up to? What has Giveth been up to in 2024?
Well, we just launched something big. Well, not even launched, really. We're announcing something big, partnership with, we're teaming up with Polygon. We're going to help them in their village. And we have like a really cool plan to kind of fix some of the problems we've seen in the Web3 ecosystem grants. You know, it's a pretty vicious world out there, honestly. You know, like, and you see a lot of people being kind of, I don't know what the word is, but it's the Web3 grants ecosystem is just like not clean these days.
So you're saying the grants ecosystem isn't clean, or there's some problem with the grants ecosystem?
Yeah, grants in Web3 are really challenging for all parties involved. You know, if you're an ecosystem like an L2 or Aave or Uniswap, you want people to build on your protocol and continue to build on your protocol and add value to your protocol. And especially with the L2 wars these days, a lot of projects, it's in their best interest to actually hop from L2 to L2. They go build something awesome for optimism, and then they're like, well, you know, I can do the next level with a grant for the Arbitrum. And then I'm going to go to ZK Sync actually. And they're just hopping from L2 to L2, and the ecosystem's like, it doesn't help them a lot to give these kind of to reward this kind of behavior. But they don't really have a choice, you know, because this is, you know, the good teams are doing that because that's in their best interest, especially short term, but probably long term too, because most projects are focused on either launching their own token one day or, you know, building something that is cross chain, something that more people can use instead of just within that ecosystem. And also when a L2 or an ecosystem gives out a grant, they usually give out the grant in their own token. And of course, the teams need to sell that token to actually do the work. So that's a huge problem. And then on top of that, how does the community actually get involved with these teams? You know, it's pretty hilarious how a lot of the OGs I talk to these days look back at the ICO era of crypto very favorably, you know? It was actually aligned incentives pretty well. Communities are built by teams who are launching tokens within an ecosystem, and then they're committed to that ecosystem because their token is there. I mean, we didn't have the L2 wars, so it was a lot hard to be cross-functional. I don't know if that would repeat these days, but it really, all the incentives were aligned in that scenario, and they're just not aligned anymore.
Yeah. The ecosystem is certainly bigger and more complicated, but there's also more capital and in some ways more opportunity. Well, I'm excited about this episode because, I'm involved with Gitcoin, which has Gitcoin grants, and you're involved with Giveth, which has also grants products. And, I think through the episode, we can compare and contrast different things that we're seeing in the grants giving ecosystem. I really want to get into the announcement that you've got today, but real quick, just wanted to revisit Giveth functionality and feature set. I think that you all are really strong mechanism designers. And so Giveth has a lot of the latest coordination mechanisms out there. In fact, you and I did a marathon episode about coordination mechanisms where we listed off like 100 of them. But the ones that are on Giveth are quadratic funding, givebacks, give power. Tell us more about Giveth as it stands right now and how you're kind of stacking mechanisms to build the ultimate grant giving power tool.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing grants and donations in Web3 since 2017, so we've been seeing all sides. We started first with like very milestone focused grants and restriction on how money could be spent and transparency within the donation space. And we quickly realized, actually very inspired by Gitcoin all along, really you guys blazed such a great trail, that people just want things to be easy and simple. So we got rid of all of our smart contracts, actually. And now on Giveth, when you donate to someone, you're just sending a transfer. There's not an approved, because there's no smart contracts in the way. It's true peer-to-peer donations. But on top of that, we stacked givebacks. So givebacks is actually our Web3 version of a tax deduction. But we don't care about taxes or governments or any of that. In fact, it's often when I say that, it confuses people. They're like, oh yeah, 501c3s and stuff. If you're a project on Giveth, you don't even have to have a legal entity. You just have to be able to verify to our basically due diligence team that you are using the funds to actually provide public goods. And for Giveth, it's like open source code, but also, addressing the floods that happened in Brazil last week, or, earthquakes in Syria or Turkey. We don't care about legal entities. We don't care about any of these things. We just hope that you're trying to make the world a better place. And when donors donate to those projects, they get give tokens in return. Actually, up to 80% of their donation can come back in give tokens. Which is pretty insane. We've given out somewhere almost $1 million worth of rewards through the Give Back program to donors to public goods. So pretty proud of that, actually. And it's like 870,000, I think, to be exact. Yeah. And so when you donate on Giveth, you get givebacks. But on top of that, what do you do with your give tokens? Well, you can. We have this other system called Give Power, which is effectively modeled after like the VE curve ecosystem, vote escrow tokens. In DeFi, a lot of projects use this same kind of mechanism where they will lock the ecosystem token and for some period of time. The longer you lock, the more voting power you get.
Yeah, this is the VE CRV scheme.
Exactly.
But basically you're using it at Giveth.
Exactly, right? We use it with Giveth. We kind of we've made it less degen. We don't like people locking for 5 years. They can only lock for 1 year. It's more of a tapering off. It's not as strongly focused on making you lock for so long. Like if you just stake and keep your liquid tokens, you have a lot more voting power than you do in some. So we just parameterized it differently, effectively. And the big difference is, instead of when you stake your tokens, you're allocating, the liquidity mining rewards. On Giveth, the givebacks program is basically donation money. And so when you stake and lock your give tokens, you get give power. And with that give power, you can boost projects. When you boost projects, they go to the top of the list. So they're seen more widely by the community who are donating, especially in QF rounds. Very valuable. But then also they get more givebacks. So if you donate to a project that has been boosted by a lot of give token holders, then you'll get more give tokens back than if you donate to a project that hasn't been boosted at all. Right now, that difference is not huge. It's we really want to incentivize people to donate to every public good that they love. So if your project has no give power boost, you still get up to 50% of your donation back in give tokens. If you have the most give power boost, then you get up to 80% back in give tokens. And I say up to because the mechanism is such that like Balancer used to be back in the day for liquidity mining, there's a max amount give tokens that we will give out in any 2-week period of $1 million give tokens. So every 2 weeks we give up to $1 million give tokens to donors, and if there are a lot of donations in that 2-week period, then everyone kind of gets a haircut on their givebacks.
Yeah,
those are the two big mechanisms. But we also have QF. We just added Superflu. We have a lot of cool things still on top of that.
Yeah. What I think is, interesting about y'all, so, those of you who followed your work know that you're also involved in Token Engineering Commons, which is this group of really great mechanism designers. And I feel like you're sort of going deep on mechanism design through TEC, and then you have Giveth, which is where you actually put it in practice. And just that learning about, hey, people don't care about the mechanisms, they just want it to be easy, I think is a really great mechanism, is a really great set of constraints, and makes Giveth and TEC a center of innovation for these things. And it's with that, I want to use that framing as a launch pad for asking what are you announcing today? What is the next big innovation in the Giveth galaxy? Tell us about that.
The big news that we're coming out with today is that we are teaming up with Polygon to experiment with the next evolution of QF. So we're calling it Quacc, and it's actually basically quadratic funding, but with tokens. So when you donate, a lot of awesome projects launched on top of Gitcoin and used quadratic funding to, bootstrap their project, and eventually even did airdrops to the people who donated to them. And airdrop season went wild, and Gitcoin was in the middle of it. It was pretty cool. But we want to make that a little cleaner and simpler, and actually give people almost like a launch pad on top of QF, so that a project can actually fix some of the alignment issues within the ecosystem grants space. Because instead of the way that this whole process will start is that a team will get a grant from the ecosystem. So lots of people would apply, they get a grant from the ecosystem, but instead of that grant just going in their back pocket, they actually will use that to launch their own token with guaranteed liquidity via augmented bonding curve. I'm going to try to avoid the scary words, bonding curves, and all this stuff. I mean, the main piece is that
this is too reductionist. But I'm kind of thinking of this as like, it's kind of like the friend tech experience, but for public goods. Instead of buying into someone's DMs, you're buying into a bonding curve on Giveth when you make a donation. Is that too reductionist?
No.
I just want to help the audience understand exactly what this is.
That's exactly it. It's like friend tech, but for projects, and sponsored by an ecosystem. And we're committed to the Polygon ecosystem. Actually, Polygon zkAVM and Giveth, we share a founder in Jordi Bellina. So obviously we're good friends, and we're really excited to really kind of come back into like the Jordi Griff experience. That's it's been like I haven't worked very closely with Jordi since maybe 2019. And so now I'm really excited just to come back and start building together again a little bit on top of the Polygon zkAVM. But yeah, it's basically friend tech except with an augmented bonding curve. So I'm really surprised that friend tech didn't check out the research that Common Stack put out there around starting out with what we call the hatch. Basically making sure that you have a trusted group of people that are the first people to buy
the trusted seed.
Yeah. Exactly. That they initialize the economy. They're the first people who get tokens, and that way, and have access to this chat room. They actually, really care about it. And friend tech, you start a room, and the first people who buy your tokens aren't people at all. They're bots that are dumping on each other. It's a crazy experience, honestly. But in 2021, we addressed that issue with bonding curves with the Token Engineering Commons, and we learned a lot when we launched the TEC. And I think we're going to take all of those learnings into this QAC mechanism. And I'm really excited because I feel like it realigns Web3 ecosystems with small teams and the community, because everyone gets part of the action. VCs come in at the same time as regular community people. If maybe a team could work with some seed round investment or something behind the scenes, they can do that, of course. But really, there's a perfect way where small projects, can actually launch their own microeconomy or their own token economy without needing venture capital investment. And what I'm excited about is, instead of giving them a grant, we give them a revenue stream. Built into the token economy is funding every time people buy and sell a token. So with the Token Engineering Commons, we did this already. And in the first year or two, I actually don't know the dates, I should check that out, but the TC raised $300,000 from the buy and sell tributes on top of their bonding curve, which that's a lot of money. And it came it came as revenue, and it actually kind of models after this, this opportunity where you can get market feedback, which is really missing for a lot of small teams in Web3. They don't have this opportunity to work with their community, get feedback, understand if they're doing well relative to other people. And this is something that our mechanism provides, using QF as a way to gather market feedback.
So let me see if I can play some of this back to you and tell me how close I get. But I'm a project that's working on public goods in the Polygon or Ethereum ecosystem. Let's say my project is called the Public Goodies. I signed up to Giveth, and under Quacc, not only can I receive donations, or not only can I receive tokens with givebacks and with quadratic funding, but now that money is going into an augmented bonding curve that basically, bonding curves are basically a way of, every time someone purchases into it, the number goes up a little bit and they get a little bit of that project's tokens back. But people, because the price is bonded to the supply, they can also sell that token back into the curve and reduce the price. So anyway, basically, we're now stacking on Giveth givebacks, quadratic funding, and bonding curves. And you think that these things compound in order to build the ultimate mousetrap for helping fund these ecosystems. Am I coming close at all?
Pretty close. See, the thing is that you're speed running it. So that's what you just described is the plan for GIRVs. And I'm very excited for GIRVs. But GIRVs integrates givebacks and give power and all these things. And we want to confirm, and we're sure that we actually understand this connecting plus QF into an ecosystem project before integrating the other mechanisms. So
I see. Okay, so we're just starting with the bonding curves. For now,
and we're going to use we're going to use Matic, right? So Polygon Village is Polygon's grant ecosystem, and they're going to fund. We're basically going to run an application, and you can signal interest to apply for the first QAC round right now. Tweet that you can find an application form if you are interested in this. Well, Polygon is sponsoring us so that we can find teams that we believe will add value to the Polygon ecosystem. So then their bonding curve will actually be fueled with Matic. That will be the first initial buy, you could say, into the bonding curve. And that will bootstrap their economy, but the team will get all of the tokens. In fact, I'm very excited. Man, I always want to tangent this, but I think it is important to just tangent off and say, bonding curves are great for bootstrapping, but they're not great for the life cycle of an economy. You only want a bonding curve at the very beginning because they solve the liquidity issues and price discovery issues when you're really small. Volatility is insane. I don't know how many people have Panvala tokens in their wallet, and they're worth nothing anymore. But, which is so sad because Panvala is such a great project. But the token, didn't work out. So now you just have these empty tokens. But with a bonding curve and a bonding curve economy, every token can be sold for the collateral under the curve. But the big thing about bonding curves is, so liquidity is guaranteed, but it's technically under collateralized. So you have to include vesting, and this is another thing that Friendtech really doesn't talk about, but you need to lock up the tokens. And so for the life cycle, until we get to the QAC round, all the tokens are locked. When we give a team a grant and we fuel their bonding curve with Matic, they will actually then get all those tokens, but they won't be able to sell them. They're just kind of incentive for them, but they get, those tokens are really cheap because the first tokens you buy in a bonding curve are always really cheap. And then the idea is that they would then let in other key people that they would need to be part of their team, or advisors, or ecosystem support, subject matter experts that they really want to be part of their success. And so those would be the next people that could actually participate in getting tokens in their economy. And of course, like, you have to have these tokens to get into their chat room and actually engage with the team. So now they're starting to build this like community. And at first it's handpicked because you want that trusted seed. But then once you expand to a certain state, then we're going to run QF rounds, which we're going to call Quacc rounds, but they work the same as QF. We're going to run these rounds where where they can broaden their community. So when people donate to the projects in the Quacc round, their donation is going to go into the bonding curve and actually mint tokens for them. So they're going to end up getting tokens for their donation. And the matching pool funds will actually go into the bonding curve and mint tokens as well, all at the same price. So everyone in the Quacc rounds will get the same price. But the matching pool will end up going into, in this case, QuickSwap, and it will create a normal liquidity pool in a normal decentralized exchange. Because this is one of the huge issues that we've seen with bonding curves, is that it's like you're selling something in the neighborhood convenience store. It's like the little store down the street, but everyone's going to Walmart. Everyone's going to the centralized exchanges or Uniswap or whatever, and your token isn't there. So they don't have access to it. And so the bonding curve is the primary market maker. It is where tokens are issued, but it's not necessarily the best place for your average person and speculator to actually go there and get the tokens. They're going to want to get the tokens where they normally go get tokens. And so the matching pool funds are actually giving out liquid tokens, whereas all the other tokens before this are locked. They're locked for a period of time. So the more the market discovery, like the open market discovery, will happen in the public facing decentralized exchanges, where market discovery is best done, actually. And the bonding curve is only going to be issuing directly locked tokens for people who really believe in the project's long-term future. And what's really cool is this, I'm describing it for like one project, but this will happen for 5 to 15 projects in our first season, and they will be competing against each other, basically. And that's what I love. This is what I really want to see in the public good space and in the Web3 grants ecosystem. I think competition is really critical for the cream of the crop to rise to the top, And so this mechanism, Quacc, which is just basically quadratic funding, but with, token economies underneath, I think it really breeds ecosystem alignment. Every token is backed by Matic. And so if Matic's price goes up, Matic's price goes down, they feel it. They are directly aligned with the success of the ecosystem. The community gets first involvement. You don't really need VCs to come in. You actually get support from the community. By the way, every time that tokens are minted, the team will actually get revenue. They actually get a piece of that, right? So some of the money will go to them as liquid revenue that they gather when people are minting tokens in the bonding curve. So they get a revenue stream that is based off of market feedback. And what's really crazy is that the ecosystem also gets TVL on chain, right? Instead of giving a grant and the team just dumping the grants so that they can pay for development, the ecosystem actually those tokens get locked in a bonding curve, and more tokens are issued based off that bonding curve. So we're estimating, TVL multipliers of 10 to 30 per X on the actual grants that are given through this mechanism for the L2 chain in this Polygon. which is super cool.
So in addition to announcing the mechanism and Quacc today, y'all are also announcing that you are accepting applications into this cohort of builders that are going to use this system. And I'm wondering if you could say a little bit about who an ideal applicant to the cohort is. Someone who wants to be in the Polygon ecosystem, I take it. Someone who wants to issue a token on augmented bonding curve and build their community and liquidity and network effects on Polygon with Giveth. Is that right? Also, say more about how people can apply.
100%. So we're just collecting interest right now. We're just telling the world about the mechanism. It's really important to us that we get the word out there. It's a pretty new thing. It might be confusing to a lot of people. I mean, I'm guarantee it's going to be. I feel like the guy with all those strings, the red strings on the map, trying to explain how this all works. It's going to be simple for the people participating in it. The only people who have to experience the complication are the teams. But the QF people, they just go, they donate. It's simple for the participants, but as a mechanism, it's kind of complicated. And so we want to make sure that we have time to explain it to people and really get people on board. We just have an interest form. It's just like, give us your email and we'll keep you up to date on the progress. We're hoping to actually take in applications in a month or two. And this is also dependent on Polygon Village, because we're working with them to get the funding for these teams. So this is there's a lot of coordination happening. And the teams that really will succeed in this program, first off, they have to bring their own token utility. We will bring token utility, the FriendTech token utility, access to a gated chat room. But then the teams that really thrive actually need a reason for the token. Tokens on a bonding curve need to be utility tokens. There needs to be some reason that someone wants the token besides investment. Honestly, you just shouldn't launch a bonding curve if you're just trying to raise investment. Go mint your tokens without the capital requirements of guaranteed liquidity. The challenge is if you want to do that, then you really need to be a larger ecosystem. That's the problems that bonding curve solves, is that you can start small and grow, but it still doesn't make sense unless you actually need a token. So, and of course, commitment to the Polygon ecosystem, because you're going to be tied to that ecosystem for a long time. At least 2 years. I'm really excited for our process of the bonding curve closing down. It's one of the things that I think we're bringing to the space that I haven't really seen too many other projects even talk about. It's this idea of a life cycle of a bonding curve, where bonding curves just need to turn off. Swarm is turning off their bonding curve. DXDAO turned off their bonding curve. Once you get to a certain size, bonding curves hurt more than they help. And so what's cool with Quacc and this mechanism is that's going to be clear up front, the rules to turn off your bonding curve, and the team will get all of the money that's in the bonding curve. So effectively, it's not really a bonding. It is a bonding curve as an issuance mechanism, but it's also almost like a milestone to create a successful economy. If you can reach certain KPIs and create an economy that can live without your bonding curve, then you will get the collateral in that bonding curve. And you don't need all that big investment because you already attracted the investment from the community, the support from the community. And we're talking like probably $1 million will be in that bonding curve that then you can use for the next big push that your team wants to make.
Sort of coming together for me, your vision here of, this is going to be super reductionist, but I'll try to summarize it for the audience. Commitment to one ecosystem, so not hopping from L2 to L2, not dumping your tokens as soon as you get them, but also stacking these really powerful mechanisms that we've known about for years in theory, but have never really been used in practice, and productizing them and making them available to founders who are up and coming in the space. So I look at you as kind of compounding different game theoretic incentive alignments on top of each other until they become this like huge attractor of accelerating teams. And I'm curious to see how the first cohort goes. So if I'm in the Polygon ecosystem and I fit it, if I'm interested in this, where do I go to apply? We'll have a link in the show notes, but if you could just say the URL, that'd be great.
Yeah, I believe it's I forget if it's typeform.giveth or giveth.typeform. Let me see.
Okay, we'll have a link in the show notes.
Yeah, it's giveth.typeform or typeform.giveth /QACC hyphen interest. And
Okay.
and it's in our tweet thread. So definitely check out our tweet thread. I spent a lot of time making those memes. I hope you enjoy them. We we're pretty stoked about this. This has been something that we've been dreaming about since 2019 and actively working towards. Because the first step for us is Quacc, and we want to get that right. We're in the first season. We're going to learn so much. It's definitely an experiment. It's not something that's going to be a polished product. And we're working with a lot of ecosystem partners, Inverter Network, General Magic, Common Stack. Common Stack really is where this whole design was battle tested. Obviously, Polygon and Giveth, we're all coming together to build this product. And so it's going to be pretty experimental and rough in the first season, not for users, but like behind the scenes. And we're going to learn so much about the mechanism that we may have to change it a lot for season 2. And then once we really get it going and we feel like, season 3, season 4, like the goal is to do this every 3 or 4 months, have another season with new people coming and do these Quacc rounds, very similar to how Gitcoin has blazed so many trails for us in the past. We're following this quarterly cadence. We will learn and improve, and then the next ecosystem to get it will be Giveth. And this is where we start to integrate givebacks, give power, and all the other mechanisms that Giveth has, and bring this to the public good space. Quacc is a mechanism. It's not just for public goods, just like tokens aren't just for public goods. It's a mechanism that can have broad appeal. But I'm in it for the public goods. I'm in it to build something better than governments. This has been the motivation of starting Giveth from the very beginning. Nonprofits, when governments fail to provide value to society, people start nonprofits. Nonprofits are the free market replacement for governments. But starting a nonprofit, there's no upside. If you're a good entrepreneur, you're going to do the spreadsheets and be like, I should not start a nonprofit. So, but if we can make nonprofits profitable, if we can make providing public goods to society a profitable endeavor, we can attract innovation, we can attract entrepreneurs, and I see the financial infrastructure that has come out of the Web3 space to really be that first public goods that is for entrepreneurs. I mean, if you think about it, anyone in the world can create a Bitcoin or Ethereum address and receive money from anyone else in the world. It's almost non-rivalrous and absolutely non-excludable. So it's a public good. It's a financial infrastructure for the world. And they didn't do it with donations. They didn't do it with taxes. They did it with crypto economics. And I am a firm believer that we can build something better than governments with crypto economics. And this is the next shot. I don't think governments are bad, especially not people in governments. People in governments are doing the best they can. They're public servants. But the system is broken. And I think crypto will be that upgrade. Whether it's this mechanism or other mechanisms, I think Retro PGF has a role to play. I think QF has a role to play. Hopefully Quacc, bonding curves, all of these mechanisms that are coming in the public good space have a role to play in a free market evolution of providing public services for society, which is what governments are really doing.
I'm excited to see how the first experiment goes. I think you're taking a lot of really important primitives and trying to combine them in interesting ways. And I can't wait to see which configuration is the one that actually works. And, maybe there's an opportunity Gitcoin can slingshot off of Giveth a little bit here and copy some of the mechanisms that y'all have had. I mean, I think I'm really just, it's kind of fun to be friends and to be building these parallel grant economies to each other. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity to build the movement together, but also to learn from each other. And so looking forward to seeing what Greenpill and Gitcoin can learn from Giveth. And augmented bonding curves are really powerful. So curious to see if that's the next hot thing.
We could not do anything without the work of Gitcoin. Everything that I do in Giveth is really like, Giveth was founded first, but we didn't have that much success until we started seeing how you guys were doing it and really following your footsteps. And so, I'm constantly inspired by the work that you guys do. And QF is no different. In fact, I'm very excited to make Quacc on top of Allo Protocol. It's going to take us time, integrating all these things together is a lot harder than it sounds. But Giveth in general is starting to make steps to integrate Allo Protocol. We just made a superfluid integration, and obviously we use Gitcoin Passport for QF. We started this round that's going on right now. There's a QF round on top on Giveth, the Galactic Giving round. It's like a Arbitrum ecosystem round almost. Most of the sponsors are coming from Arbitrum and the ecosystem. They we're starting to integrate cluster mapping for it. So this will be the first round.
These are Sybil resistance tools that Gitcoin's been playing with. For the audience who's unfamiliar with them, Joel Miller, the author of Cluster Mapping, has been on Greenpill. We'll put a link to that in the show notes also. But yeah, it's fun to play with mechanisms and then sort of make them open source. And not only Giveth and Gitcoin can use each other's mechanisms or learnings, but I'm also excited about one of the visions I sort of have is what if we made these mechanisms available for anyone to build into their dApps down the line? And just the same way as you can pull an ERC20 or ERC721 into your app and it's well documented and it's never been hacked, and you just know that out of the box so you can focus on things on top of that. What if you could take QF or retro PGF or augmented bonding curves and put them into your app? And just the more Legos that are out there, the more exponential permutations of different value people could create out there. But yeah, it starts with Gitcoin and Giveth sort of working together, and then it becomes hopefully a whole movement in the next cycle or two.
Yeah, Allo Protocol plus augmented bonding curves, man, it's going to happen. It's just, just takes time. I've been telling the inverter crew, because they're really doing the smart contracts, the inverter network team, who are good friends that I've known for a long time. And a lot of their first work was actually with the Common Stack. A lot of the people who are the founders of Inverter came through the Common Stack ecosystem. And so, it's just, there's so much in going on all the time. Like if you're just trying to perfect bonding curves, that's a lot of work already, but we're going to make this happen because this is the magic of Web3. Composability is what makes it so magical. I'm confident that we'll get there. And I want to say, like, we made a major stride to bringing Allo Protocol to Giveth with the superfluid integration. So now in this QF round, you can actually set a stream. It's not like streaming QF, which is super cool. It's a little more simple. It's just you set a stream on Giveth, and if your stream happens during a QF round when someone is participating, we count that as a donation for that project during that QF round. And so it's kind of like a set it and forget it donation. It's going to be integrated into givebacks. It's integrated into QF. And to do it, the only way we could really integrate our system to work with Superfluid was to use Grants Hub now. So, which is the next, we just integrated that into Giveth. And every time someone sets up a stream, they're actually adding their project address and their project owner address into Grants Hub. So it's the integration, it's happening slowly.
Yeah, I think that, my model for DAO to DAO relations is at the social layer. We vibe together, do our founders do podcasts together. And then there's like the technological layer, do our technologies talk to each other. And then there's an economic layer on top of that. And so that's my generalized framework for DAO to DAO partnerships. But, I feel like Giveth and Gitcoin, we're like 9 out of 10 vibing together, and feels like we're building a Regen movement together. The technology is starting to seep in between each other, but yeah, I don't know, maybe there'll be a token swap on the frontier or something once the technology gets more integrated, and we don't need to rush it. I feel pretty comfortable just like building the movement together right now and sort of copying each other's mechanisms out in the open, not feeling guilty about that, but feeling proud that we're slingshotting off of each other. And the recurring donations thing is a really good idea. I'll keep my eye on that. There's a lot of people. I went out to lunch with these EF developers, and they're like, "Yeah, I contributed to Gitcoin back in like round 9, but then I got busy and I forgot about it." Like, if there was just a way to set it and forget it, so that every time there's a Gitcoin round, it does it for you. I think that's I'll be interested to see how that goes and how that compounds value in the Giveth ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a requested feature for a long time. People just, recurring donations is something that is pretty standard. Most nonprofits get a majority of their donations through recurring donations, where they get like every month there's just a credit card, payment, and they get $100 from a lot of random donors. So it's clearly something donors like, at least in the Web 2 space. And so we'll see if the Web 3 space enjoys it. I think it'll make life a lot easier.
What other mechanisms are you excited about right now? I know we're getting to the bottom of the hour, but I feel like you're my mechanism design nerd friend, so I gotta get that in before we wrap.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm still excited about Retro PGF and all the work that's happening over in Optimism.
Yeah, hell yeah.
The metrics experiment this round is going to be really cool. I think there's a huge future for Retro PGF. It aligns incentives in a super cool way. Still relies on a lot of donations, which kind of is a challenge. But when Optimism mints their token, the OP token, and uses that token to reward people for Retro PGF, that's not really a donation. So, when you pair it with a token economic system, Retro PGF is perfect. It can be simple, but there's a lot of experimentation that still needs to come up. And I know you're doing Easy Retro PGF. I think Cello's coming up. Filecoin did one, right?
Yep, that's right. For the people in the audience, Gitcoin forked Optimism's voting interface and is now making retro public goods funding available to many different types of mechanisms. So trying to democratize access to the best funding mechanisms is something that we all have in common, I think.
Yeah, and we're building also a interface for Retro PGF called Pairwise, and the goal there is for it to be super fun. Something I've really wanted to see the space jump into is making voting fun, which I think QF was the first successful project to do it, because it doesn't feel like voting, but you're absolutely right. And that's I think that should be the goal for everybody in Web3, to kind of gamify the collective decision-making process. And so we're making a real game. Like, it's going to feel very gamey. There's going to be background music, sound effects. Your first, it feels like Tinder, where you'll have categories in Pairwise. You'll have a group of projects, maybe like 30 projects that are in a category. So you'll be like, oh yeah, I want to rank that category. And then you'll choose between these 30 projects. First, like, do you think the project should get anything? Yes or no? And we kind of give it a Tinder-like interface, right? So you can swipe left or right. First, I think for the MVP, it's just going to be clicking a button, yes or no. But eventually you should be swiping left or right. And then once you have narrowed the field, you'll see two of them at a time, and you'll pick the one that you like best. And at the end of that, you're just like, this one's better than that. This one's better than that. And it should be kind of fun. Eventually we want to add like points, and at the end, once you finish ranking the category, you'll get like a treasure chest with some kind of reward. And then you'll also give feedback on why you ranked these projects, because I also think like getting feedback for the projects is really important. And then you'll move on to the next category. And the dream here is to kind of not only just like get a final output and like who gets more funding from Retro PGF, but also the project discovery. One of the coolest things about quadratic funding, and I've always loved, is every time I donate on Gitcoin or Giveth, I discover new projects. I'm like, oh, this is cool. What are they doing? Oh, cool. Like, I like that. And maybe I'll even build off of them or use their interface. And so for public goods, especially for Retro PGF, or retro funding as it's now called, it's more important that you have this wide project discovery. So instead of our application being focused just on the 150 or so badge holders that get to really vote, we want to make it also a community signaling app, so that delegates, badge holders, recipients, and OP token holders all get to rank the projects in Retro PGF. And then we'll aggregate all of those signals to show some information to badge holders so they can help make their decisions. This is the goal of Pairwise within Optimism. But of course, we're excited to use Pairwise to, just like Easy Retro PGF, to just help ecosystems distribute rewards to their community.
If you're new to the podcast, the last episode that Griff and I did together for Greenpill was called The Tinder of On-Chain Voting Mechanisms. And if you search Greenpill and Griff Green, that'll come up, as well as the legendary episode that we did where we listed off like 60 different coordination mechanisms.
Yeah.
So it's been fun to have you. It's always fun to catch up with you, Griff, and thanks for pushing the space forward. Anything else I didn't ask that you want to say before we wrap?
Man, I don't know if I said it enough, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate your work, Kevin. Like, I really am so glad you're back in Gitcoin. I don't know how you find the time to do these Greenpill podcasts, and man, it helps bring Gitcoin back into the major flow and improve everything, and also just be everywhere in the ecosystem. Your work is really inspiring, and so thank you so much for all that you do, and for having me.
Yeah, likewise. Well, I just have to say that Gitcoin is a network, and I think that I'll get all the credit and all the blame in a lot of ways as its founder. And with that in mind, I got to say right back at you, Griff, yourself and the Giveth ecosystem are continuing to move the ecosystem forward. So excited to see what we can do when we work together and not apart. And so let's keep grinding, and I'll probably have you back in 2025, and that'll be your 4th Greenpill episode. So looking forward to doing that too.
Super cool. Hey, thanks a lot for having me, Kevin.
You bet. All right, we just heard from Griff Green. I'm excited about Quacc because I think augmented bonding curves are really powerful, and it's always just a delight to compare and contrast Giveth and Gitcoin strategies for building the public goods ecosystem. Thanks again for listening to the Greenpill.network podcast. Again, we are building a coordination, a network society of thousands of hackers, dreamers, and doers focused on using crypto to bring positive-sum digital systems to the world, like Griff Green, like all the people at Giveth and Token Engineering Commons. If you value our work, you can collect this episode on chain. Go to pods.media/greenpill to find all episodes and to start collecting. Thank you to YesChewCrypto.eth and MMAOnchain.eth for collecting a recent episode of the Greenpill podcast, and also to SkyWTF.eth. Your contributions mean a lot to me. All right, well, it's been a fun one. While you're here, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share this episode with your friends. Peace and love. I will see you next time.